Thank you, Raymond and team for leading us. I felt so touched and led, and his voice and David's voice were so powerful, but I want to hear all of your voices, all right? So how about one more time we try this? Just this part. Let's just sing with our voices, okay? And and let this be a prayer as I bring you the word from the Beatitudes today. Shall we do that? Just the voices all my life. Shall we do that? Come, let's sing together. All my life you have been faithful. Come on, church. Sing it to the Lord. All my life you have been so good. With every breath. Amen. I will sing of the goodness. I will sing. And I will sing of the goodness of God. Amen. Brothers, sisters, we are in the midst of the Beatitudes, living life to the fullest. In this series, what we are trying to do is we are trying to learn from the 8 Beatitudes of Jesus, where actually Jesus is inviting us to a lifestyle that is totally different from the common lifestyle. But it surely leads us and it paves to live life to the fullest according to what God has intended or designed for each one of us on this planet Earth. We have already covered 4 of them so far. Do you remember the 4 Beatitudes? Maybe some yes, some no. So let's try again. Ready? Go. Blessed are the... Wow. Impressive, eh? 100 upon 100. Give yourself a hand. Please, come on. All right. Wonderful. And I hope that by the end of this series, the Beatitudes of Jesus is by heart. It's in your heart. It's in your DNA. And may this Beatitude be an inspiration for you to always respond to the life that Jesus is inviting us each day. Today we are going to talk about the 5th Beatitude, and that is this. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive or obtain mercy. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. That's right. Mercy in this Beatitude is considered to be a blessing. But again, listen to this, brothers and sisters. This was something the audience of Jesus found it hard to wrap around their mind with. Why? Well, the reason is very simple. Because the world they were living in, which is the Roman world, they call mercy something else. They don't call mercy blessing. You know what they call mercy? Let me show you. They call mercy the disease of the soul. It's true. That's what the Roman world thinks of mercy. Why? Because mercy to them was a sign of weakness. It was a sign that they did not have what it takes to be a real man, but especially a real Roman. The Romans glorified manly courage. They glorified strict justice, firm discipline, and above all, absolute power. Now, they looked down on mercy because mercy to them was weakness, and weakness was despised above all other human limitations. Now, John MacArthur further gives us a picture when he said this. When a child is born or was born into the Roman world, the father had the right of Patria potestas, what does it mean? It means that if he wanted the newborn to live, he held his thumb up. If he wanted the child to die, he held it down, and the child was immediately drowned. Wow, happy Father's Day. Fathers, you got power, man. Just like this, it determines whether your child lives or dies. No, not in our world, but in the Roman world. That was what it is. And that's why mercy was weakness. Mercy is never to be found. Now, he's not done yet. He continues on saying, if a Roman citizen didn't want his slave anymore, he could kill and bury him, and there would be no legal recourse against the citizen. And by the way, he could also kill his wife if he wished to. That was the power. That was how the Roman world was. That was the world where the audience of Jesus were living. And Jesus steps into that world and says, blessed are the what? Merciful. So, can you imagine how ridiculous Jesus would sound at that time, at that culture, with that audience? But again, it is no different today, isn't it? It is no different today. Because we live in a society that celebrates what? That celebrates merit more than mercy. One of the pastors in Singapore observed this way. We live in a society built upon merit rather than mercy. Being merciful is not on the list of top 10 attributes of successful people. One of our preoccupations in modern living is fighting for our rights. Now, please don't misunderstand. There is nothing wrong about merit. There is nothing wrong about fighting for our rights. But I believe you get the point where this is going. You shall see it. Jesus has something else to say, totally different thing to say. Blessed are the merciful. Blessed are the merciful. So, let's unpack what Jesus said in this beatitude by answering these three questions. Who are the merciful? Why be merciful? And how to be merciful? Who are the merciful? Why be merciful? And how to be merciful? All right, so let's unpack the first one. Who are the merciful? One of the best pictures of mercy is illustrated from the parable of the Good Samaritan. You know the story, don't you? Okay, so I won't tell you the story. But you see, there are three elements. There are three elements of mercy that we can observe from this parable. Okay, from the parable of the Good Samaritan. The first is this. Mercy looks out to care for others. Mercy looks out to care for others. You see, in the parable of the Good Samaritans, the priest and the Levite did look out for the half-dead man, right? Lying, being beaten up by the robbers. But they looked out for him, not to care for him, but I believe more to criticize or ignore him. But you see, the despised Samaritan looked out for this half-dead man to care for him. The question is, how about us? Do we look out for people to care for them or to criticize them? Second, mercy not just looks out, but mercy feels compassion for others. In the parable again, the priest and the Levite saw the half-dead man, right? But they simply went their way. Now, do you realize that in the parable, Jesus didn't tell us how they felt? But you know what? I'd like to imagine that they felt cynical. The priest and the Levite felt cynical about the half-dead man. You must be so and so forth. Must have done something bad. Who told you to just walk alone or come like this, and so forth. However, that was not the case for the Samaritan. When the despised Samaritan saw the half-dead man, he felt compassion for him. He felt the pain and the misery of the half-dead man. And the question again is, how about us? Do we feel compassion? Do we feel compassion for others or cynical? Do we feel their pain and misery or our inconvenience? And I'm guessing it would be our inconvenience. Wow, help. I have to lose something. I have to, our inconvenience. When we want to have mercy, when we want to show mercy, what we feel is not so much of compassion, I believe. Or maybe even when we feel compassion, and then immediately the next thing that we feel is our inconvenience and the cost that may cost us. And actually, that's quite natural, but abnormal for disciples of Jesus Christ. Third, mercy acts out. Mercy acts in love to help others. Now, this third element of mercy is the defining point of what mercy is. You see, it does not just look out or feels compassion, but it leads to action in love, to do something for someone to better his or her circumstance. The despised Samaritan in the parable used whatever he had to help and to save this half-dead man, even though this half-dead man that he saved was what? His friend or enemy? That was a question. Enemy. That's right. Samaritan, Jews, you know the context, right? And even though this half-dead man was considered his enemy, because the Jew despised the Samaritans. It's like, why would I help? These are the people who are, despising us. But instead of that, he went, he looked out, he felt compassion, and he acted in love, and he helped and saved the man. Brothers, sisters, that is mercy. So, who are the merciful? Let me put it this way. The merciful are the ones who have the same attitude toward others as God has. Very simple. Let me put it again. The merciful are the ones who have the same attitude toward others as God has. If you are still thinking, what does that mean? Let me show you. It means this: to think of others as God thinks of them. That's right. To think of others as God thinks of them. To feel for others as God feels of them or for them. To act toward others as God Himself acts. To think of others as God thinks of them. To feel for others as God feels for them. And to act towards others as God Himself acts. These are the people who are merciful. Let's unpack the second question, and that is, why be merciful? Why be merciful? Why do we need to be merciful? Let me give you 3 simple reasons why out of this beatitude, and then the 4th reason I will come to the text, the beatitude, the 5th beatitude. All right, so let me give you the first 3. Why be merciful? Well, very simple, because God has been merciful to us, right? In Lamentation, it says, though through the Lord's mercies we are not consumed, because His compassion fails not. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Because of the Lord's mercies, we are not consumed. We are who we are even today. And Ephesians chapter 2 also says, but God, who is rich in mercy, because of His great love with which He has loved us, even when we were dead in trespass, made us alive together with Christ. By grace you have been saved. It is because God is rich in mercy, He made us alive. So, brothers and sisters, as recipients of God's mercy, we ought to be givers of God's mercies to others as well. Second, why be merciful? It's because God commands us. That's right. Do you know? It's a very simple passage here in Micah, right? The Lord has told you what is good. And this is what He requires of you. And that is what? To do what is right and to love what? Mercy. And to walk humbly with your God. And then it cannot be clearer than this. In Luke 6, be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Therefore, to be merciful, my brothers and sisters, is a command, not a suggestion or an option. It's either we obey or disobey His command. That's pretty simple. But it is a command to be merciful. You can never find any excuse to justify this command, to be merciful to others who need mercy from you. They don't deserve. That's right. They don't deserve your mercy. And that is why it's hard to forgive them, right? I understand. They don't deserve your mercy. But just know that you received mercy from God that you didn't deserve in the first place as well, right? So to be merciful is a command, not just a suggestion. And third, it's because it brings us much joy. It makes us happy. You think like, really? It makes us happy? For those of you who are cynical about this, make us happy, really? Maybe because you have never tried to be merciful. But for those of you who have been merciful, you may be saying that like, but I need to qualify this statement because before you can get really the happiness or joy in your heart, you have to really struggle. That's right, you have to struggle. It's not easy, it's not natural. Like I said, it's normal not to have mercy or to forgive, but it's abnormal for the disciples of Jesus like you and me. It brings much joy. Proverbs 11 says this one, right? The merciful man does good. The merciful man does good for his own soul. But he who is cruel troubles his own flesh. So what the hymn says is true, isn't it? The hymn that says, trust and obey, for there is no other way than to be happy in Jesus, but to trust and obey. Finally, and this is where I will come to the beatitude, the fifth beatitude. Why be merciful? Because we will need it in future. And you may be thinking, what does that mean? Let me show you. Jesus said, blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Right? That's what Jesus said. For they shall receive mercy. Now, the second half of this beatitude, which is, for they shall receive mercy, there are at least two ways to understand this statement, for they shall receive mercy. First is this: be merciful so that others will be merciful to you as well. Okay? They shall receive. If blessed are those who are merciful, for they shall receive mercy. One way to understand this statement is that be merciful so that what? Others will be merciful to you as well. And I believe this is true, right? Because tell me, given the choice to you, who will you show mercy to? To someone who shows mercy to others, or to someone who doesn't show mercy to others? Which one? It's quite obvious, right? You and I will naturally be drawn to show mercy to someone who also shows mercies to others. It's quite natural. And that's why it could mean as well, if you are merciful, you will receive mercy from others as well. Because we all make mistakes in life. But sadly, this is not true all the time. You agree? This is not true all the time. Because sometimes you can show mercy to others, but in return, you get something else other than mercy. It's like, what? I show mercy and then I get this? Fine, next time I don't show you mercy. It's like my son always, as he plays with my daughter. Kenny, don't wanna? Okay, next time I don't play with you. It's like, yo, no. Yeah, but that's quite natural again. It's natural. It's normal, but abnormal for you and for me if we are called to be disciples of Jesus. Of course, a classic example that this is not true all the time is our Lord Jesus Christ, right? Who showed mercy beyond our imagination. Jesus Christ showed mercy to those people around him. But in return, what did they do? What did they say? They cried out, crucify him, and guess what? They did crucify him in the end. So it's not true all the time, but it's true sometimes. Second way to understand this statement is be merciful so that God will be merciful to you when Christ returns to judge the earth. Now, let me unpack this a bit. God is the subject here. When Jesus said, "For they shall have mercy," God is the subject. For they shall receive mercy, right? The question is who or by who? They shall receive mercy by who? And so God is the subject. Therefore, God is the one who will give them mercy, who will show them. He is the one who will show them mercy. But you see, there is a future element in this statement. Now, as you know, right, if you are familiar with the words and the ministry and the life and the teachings of Jesus, there are many instances when Jesus would say, or when even the apostles would say, that have future implications. It's not just the current, but future. And I think this is one of them as well. There is a future element, and the future element here is that Christ returned to judge the earth. Now you may be thinking, what? Christ coming to judge the earth? Brothers, sisters, again, you all are mature believers, I would assume. You have read the Bible well, I assume. And we must never forget, therefore, that when Christ first came, He came to save the world. And He is coming back again. You should know that if you have read the Bible, right? Christ came the first time to save the world. And Christ went back to the Father, but Christ is coming back again. That would be the end of this world that we see. But when Christ comes back again, He is not coming back to save the world. He is coming to judge the world. When Christ returns the second time, He is going to judge you. He's going to judge me. He is coming to judge the living and the dead. He will judge us based on how we lived our lives. Listen to what James tells us, and this is what I think Raymond shared with us earlier as well. But I think James just nails it. James said, show mercy to others, or God will not show mercy to you when He judges you. When He judges you, Because we may think that, yeah, God may judge us today. No. James isn't talking about the now. James is talking about the future. How do we know that? Well, read the following. But the person who shows mercy can stand without fear at the what? At the judgment. In other words, at the judgment day, when Christ returns again. So you see, brothers and sisters, it isn't the people who have kept more rules than anyone else who get to face the judgment day with the greatest confidence that they can have. Rather, it is the believers, it is you and me who live a life, if we live a life of showing mercy to others, just as we have received mercy from God. They are the ones. You will be the ones. I will be the ones. If we show mercy here, right here, as we live on this earth, we will be the one. As James says, we will not fear to stand when Christ returns. When the trumpet sounds and we finally know that Christ is returning right now, there will be no fear in our hearts. James is saying, if we are living the lives that Jesus is inviting in the Beatitudes. In fact, we would say, Jesus, yes, I have been waiting for this moment. Come, now come. But you and I will fear the day of Jesus' return if we are living lives on our own, according to our own flesh and our own desires. That's what James is saying, and that's the implication of when Jesus said, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy," having a future implication, God being the subject, that God will be the one to show mercy to you. If you show mercy to others right now, at the judgment day when Jesus judges everyone, you will have mercy. Therefore, if we who experience God's mercy, listen to this very carefully. If we who experience God's mercy willingly and continually refuse to show mercy to others who need it, God will hold us accountable and judge us accordingly when Christ returns to judge the living and the dead. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just telling you what the Scripture has for us. So be merciful. Let's be merciful, because God has been merciful to us, because He commands us to be merciful. Because when we are merciful, it brings us joy, much joy. It's hard. But by the grace of God, when we do, we experience much joy. And finally, because we need it in future. We need God's mercy when Christ comes to judge us. Now, you may be thinking that, but Christ forgave us everything, what, right? That's right, Christ forgave everything. But we cannot take Christ's mercy for granted, His grace for granted. There will be a judgment, and the judgment is not for unbelievers, by the way. There is a judgment for us, you and I, believers. And that's why how we live our lives is very important. God will judge us and reward us accordingly how we live our lives. What we do with His love that He has poured to us. And how or whether or not we are pouring that love and that mercy to others as well. Finally, this leads us to the final question, and of course, that is how to be merciful. How to be merciful. Before I give you some application for this week, okay? Before I give you some application on how to be merciful, let me point out three important factors which we must come to terms. Because if not, they can become a hindrance for us to be merciful. Okay? So they are very important. Here's the first one. The unpayable debt of our sin to God. What do I mean by that? Do you remember the servant who owed a great sum of money to the king in the parable of the unforgiving servant? You remember? It's recorded for us in Matthew chapter 18. This is what Jesus said in the parable here. The servant couldn't pay because he owed a great sum of money to the king. So Jesus said, the servant couldn't pay, so the king ordered that he and his wife and his children and all that he had to be sold to repay the debt because he couldn't pay. And when he heard that, the servant fell on his knees before the king and begged, saying, "Be patient with me, and I will pay you back everything. I will pay back everything." You know how the story goes, right? I don't have to tell you. The king, in response to this, showed mercy, right? He felt compassion for the servant because the king knows he couldn't pay. And so the king showed mercy and canceled his debt and freed him. He said, "Go, you are free." But this servant who received mercy from the king, listen, failed. Not just failed, but willingly refused to show mercy to one of his fellow servants who owed him what? Just some money. Who couldn't pay him in time. It's like, what? Why? Why didn't this guy who received mercy from the king for a great sum of money that he owed, which he couldn't pay, didn't show mercy to one of his fellow servants who just owed him just a bit of money? Why? I believe in these two verses there is a clue given to us by Jesus. Look with me again. It says, look carefully, I bolded for all of us. Jesus said the servant couldn't pay. Now, Jesus didn't say the servant cannot pay. Of course, you can say same, but I would say same, but different, okay? Couldn't pay means he could never pay in his lifetime. That was the implication here. This servant could never pay in his entire lifetime. Never. That was the situation. But I believe the servant didn't understand that. The servant didn't understand the gravity of his debt. The great sum that he owed, that he couldn't pay. He simply, I believe, didn't understand that. And that is why, look at what he said to the king towards the end. "Be patient with me." And what did he say? "I will" what? "Pay back everything." What? No. You cannot, because you couldn't. I believe the servant didn't understand the gravity, the great sum, the debt that he can never pay in his lifetime. And this is why I believe even some Christians who have received the magnanimous mercy of God fail and refuse to show mercy to others, even today. Because they failed, I believe, to understand the gravity of their own debt to God, for which God showed mercy, and for which without the mercy of God, they would be doomed. So if you want to be merciful, I believe the unpayable debt of our sin, what I'm trying to say is this: if we want to be merciful, there is something beneath our perspective, our heart, at the core of our heart that we must understand, and we must never forget that there is this debt that is unpayable, that we must never forget the gravity of our debt, the great unpayable debt to God, for which He graciously showed mercy to you and me by canceling it completely for free. So that's the first thing we must understand and we must remember always. Second is what I call the tension between justice and mercy, or the confusion, even for some people may call it that way, between justice and mercy. What do I mean by this? You see, our God is the God of justice and mercy at the same time, right? Our God is not just the God of like, suka, I love you, I forgive you, okay, I forgive you, okay, I forgive you. No, our God is not just the suka God, but suka plus justice. Okay, suka, you know suka. Okay, never mind, I don't know. Okay. Do you remember how God executed justice? Do you remember how God executed both justice and mercy at the same time in the first murder trial of mankind? Do you remember? Cain, remember? Cain and Abel? Cain was convicted of murdering who? His own brother, Abel. And justice was served. Justice was served. God gave the justice. God performed the justice. And here it is. It tells us in Genesis chapter 4. He says what? God says, no longer will the ground, God speaking to Cain, no longer will the ground yield good crops for you, no matter how hard you work. From now on, you will be a homeless wanderer on the planet Earth. That was the justice. To which Cain replied to God that the punishment was too harsh for him to bear, because anyone who finds him will kill him. So what did God say? Or what did God do? Did God say, I'm the God of suka, I'm the God of mercy, so okay lah, let me show you mercy, let me take away the punishment lah. It's okay. No. He didn't. God didn't take away the punishment. God didn't remove the justice that He has performed. But did God show mercy? The answer is yes, He did. You may ask how? Here's how. This is what the Lord said to Cain. No, if anyone kills you, I will punish that person 7 times more. And then the Lord put a mark on Cain, warning anyone who met him not to kill him. So you see, God is a God of justice and mercy. And of course, the classic example of justice and mercy working together is God's plan of salvation for all mankind. Remember? Mankind sinned, and justice must be served. Again, like I said, God is not like, sin lah. Okay lah, never mind lah. I'm the God of mercy. I'm the God of love. No. God cannot be God of love if God is not a God of justice. Do you hear that? God cannot be God of love if God is not a God of justice. So justice must be served. God cannot ignore justice. God cannot let sin go unpunished. So mankind must be punished. There is no way. But what happened? God showed mercy towards us, and He bypassed the punishment that we deserved, right? And that's why we say, praise the Lord, amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Saved like a wretch like me. I was once, we sing all this song because the judgment has been bypassed. So the question now, therefore, is, what happened to justice? I thought you just said God is the God of justice and mercy. So what happened to justice? Did mercy overrule justice? The answer is, of course, no. No. Why? Because God punished. Well, not us, but God punished His own Son, Jesus, in our what? In our place. Therefore, justice was served. Justice was served fully and completely in the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And through Jesus Christ, we receive the mercy of God. The escape from the punishment that we rightly deserve. That is mercy. That is mercy, justice and mercy working together in God's plan of salvation for all mankind. Showing mercy doesn't mean that we forego justice. In fact, there can be no mercy. There can be no mercy if there is no justice. Mercy makes most sense in the presence of justice. So, yes, seek justice. Seek justice for yourself. Seek justice for others especially. Seek justice for the ones who are in need, who are in trouble, who cannot raise their own voice. Seek justice. But give mercy as well. Yeah? Because our God is the God of justice and mercy. These two can work side by side. And of course, I must tell you that sometimes we may not have the perfect balance between justice and mercy. Let's admit that. You have to admit that. That's the reality. If not, you are going to disappoint yourself. You're going to get depressed and distressed and frustrated. Because that's just how it is. We are living in a sinful world. We may not have perfect balance. But if we understand this principle of justice and mercy working together, I believe you and I, we will be in a better place to discern in various situations. Of course, with much prayer for God's guidance. Okay? So whenever you come in the tension between justice and mercy, and you are finding it very difficult to apply this, to apply the beatitude, fifth beatitude, blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. And you are torn in between this justice and mercy. Just pray. Seek the Lord. Just delay the justice and mercy. Go into your closet, pray. Get someone to come alongside you, pray. When you do that, I believe the Holy Spirit will lead you and help you. The third one is this: the sacrificial cost in showing mercy. I believe you know what I mean by this, right? Because showing mercy to others may mean losing something on your end. You agree? Because sometimes when you show mercy, you lose something on your end. I mean, think with me, for example. You offer help. You offer some help to your colleagues. Okay, to your colleague maybe, and this colleague is someone you don't like. This colleague is like your enemy, or this colleague has done something wrong in the past. I mean, just imagine helping someone. The implication is what? You will surely lose your time. You will surely lose your energy or your resources even. And that means what? You might not even finish your own work on time. So it will cost you something sometimes. Or another instance would be what? Forgiving someone. Forgiving someone when they do something terribly wrong against you or even against your company. Right? I mean, who knows when you forgive that person? Who knows? They might take advantage of you next time. Isn't it true? And I believe that most of us, we don't want to forgive others or we don't want to show mercy because we fear that they will take advantage of us, right? Sometimes. And so it's quite natural. It's normal, again, but it's abnormal for us, you and me, if we are disciples of Jesus. And for those of you who are working in a marketplace, in a company, when your colleague or your employer, your employee or someone or your colleagues, they do something wrong, they make a mistake, and you forgive, you show mercy, in some cases it may mean extra cost for your company. And who's going to pay for that, right? So there are implications when you show mercy. Sometimes there are some sacrificial costs in showing mercy toward others. We may lose something, while to those whom we are showing mercy, gain something from us. That's just the way it is. So I think we must remember, when we show mercy, you and I, we must be willing to lose something on our end. You cannot say, hey, God, I want to show mercy, but you better take care of me. Huh? It doesn't work that way. God, or in fact, if I'm God, I will say, of course I will take care of you. Go. And then you sacrifice, and then you complain to me, God, I thought you said you will take care of me. Yeah. Now I will take care of you. You are in trouble, right? I will take care of you. So that's just the way it is. So, but remember today's Beatitudes, okay? Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. They shall receive mercy from God on the day when Christ returns to judge the living and the dead. We may lose something over here by showing mercy, but let this encourage all of us. Okay? Listen to this. While we lose something here, okay, when we show mercy, while we lose something here, we are gaining something for the future. Is that okay? Let that be an encouragement for all of us. We show mercy to others, it may cost us. And for some of us, big time. Big time. So while we lose something here, on this side of the eternity, tell yourself through this beatitude, never mind. I lost this. I lost my time. I lost my promotion. I lost my chance. I lost this. I lost that. But never mind. I am gaining something for the future. For they shall receive mercy from God on the day of judgment. With that, let me give you very simple 3 practical ways to show mercy this week. Okay? Very simple, straightforward. Okay? So 3 simple, practical ways that you can show mercy this week. Would that be okay? Because you come here on Sunday not just to listen and say, okay, and then don't do anything about it. Sunday we come to worship, to re-energize, and to receive something for the coming week. So for this coming week, you can do these 3 things. First, to those who mistreat you, forgive them. To those who mistreat you, forgive them. Now, every once in a while, we do encounter people who mistreat us in one way or another and in various forms, right? Don't we? So my question to all of us is this: who are those people in your life today? It could be your colleague, it could be your boss, it could be your spouse, it could be your children, it could be your parents, it could be your neighbor, or it could be even strangers when you take bus or MRT, right? Some mean person just come and, So who are these people in your life today? Forgive them. This week, find ways to forgive them in your heart. Pray for them. Pray for yourself. If there is one way, another way to show your forgiveness to them, go ahead. Could be buy a card, just write something. Could be just buy something, copy, whatever. Hey, just thought of you. You know why? For who knows? Someday you may be in need of someone to forgive you as well. Isn't that true? Okay, so to those who mistreat you, find ways to forgive them. Second, to those who are struggling spiritually in their faith, walk with them. Walk with them. We are all, we all have our ups and downs. We all have our ups and downs. And that's why we need the church community. That's why we need one another. So who are the people? Who are those people that are going through tough times today? Because of the challenges that you are going through, they are going through, of their family, of their parents, their children, their siblings, neighbors, their work, their health, and their faith is shaken. Even if the faith is not shaken, they are struggling to trust God. And what a difference it would make if someone just come alongside them and walk with them, right? Not to lecture them, no. Oh, you little faith, oh, you of little faith. Don't. Like we say, like we want to follow Jesus, we want to follow the example of Jesus, right? So you say, yeah, Jesus said that to Peter, what? So I want to follow Jesus' example. Then I want to go and tell this brother or sister, oh, you of little faith, why are you like, no, not that way, okay? That is a bit too extreme. But it's to walk with them. It's to walk with them. So, this week, just why don't you take a moment and find someone that you know, a brother or sister, and just walk with them. By that, what do I mean? Maybe just meet up with them. And I know some of you may say, no, Pastor, I tried that before. No, it doesn't work. And then why doesn't? Because there are some people who doesn't want anyone to walk beside them, which is true, right? It's like you text them, you call them and say, hey, bro, sister, want to catch up, just want to hear you out and just pray. And they won't reply to you because they want to just be by themselves. So I understand. So if you are the one who is trying to meet up with this person who is struggling in his or her faith, and this person gives you a cold shoulder, and that's fine. Don't be offended. It's okay. You tried your best. The next thing that you can do is commit this week to pray for this person. Is that okay? And in case, now here's what I want to speak to you. If you are the one, now listen carefully, whether you are on site or online. If you are the person who refused to let someone come and walk with you, brother, sister, I know that's normal. That's the normal feeling. But that's absolutely abnormal. That's not the way Jesus calls us to live. Because you are not the only one who is messed up. In fact, the one who is trying to reach out to you, that person is also messed up in his or her own way. So if you are the person who doesn't allow anyone to walk beside you, I want to tell you lovingly, my brother, sister, don't do that. You're putting yourself in danger. Don't do that. So if this week someone texts you, someone calls you out for lunch, for coffee, tea, dinner, please say yes. And share your struggles. And let that person pray for you and with you. Likewise, you can also pray for that person. Finally, to those who are suffering and in need, help them. To those who are suffering and are in need of something in life, help them. We all suffer physically, mentally, financially. Who are the people? Who are the people you know of today that are suffering, that are in need, physically, mentally, financially? Who are those people? Provide some practical help this week. It won't cost you that much. Or maybe for some of you, it may cost you big time. But like I said earlier, while we lose something here, we are gaining something for the future. So, look out for those people who are in need. Wouldn't it be wonderful if Shalom Baptist Chapel become a church known for mercy? And I think it is good. We are thinking of people outside. But I think it should start from within our own community, right? And within our own community, sometimes we all have our ups and downs. We get into a situation where we are in need. And when we get to know some of us who are in need, and I'm telling myself, let's take the step of faith and let's in love step up and give. Give your help, your helping hand, emotional help, financial help, assistance if there is a need, and so forth. I think it will be wonderful. You may be thinking, wow, that's not normal, right, Pastor? Well, actually we made it abnormal. That was how the church was, remember, in Acts? Have you read Acts? The church was like that. When they see someone in need and they don't have the cash with them, what do they do? They go and sell a plot of land so that they can get the money and give to those who are in need. That's what they did. And they have nothing to gain from that. In fact, they are losing their land. And I don't think like I give you with 0% interest, or 1% interest. Better next year, give me back. No. I know it's hard, especially when we talk about finance. But again, who knows? Someday, you may be that someone who may be in need. That's the world we live in. Ups and downs. Sometimes you are up. Sometimes you will be at the lowest. So, my prayer, therefore, for all of us is that may we, as recipients of God's magnanimous mercy, become generous dispensers of God's mercy toward others. May we think of others as God thinks of them. May we feel for others as God feels for them. May we act toward others as God Himself acts. And may we all be filled with the overwhelming sense of the mercy and the goodness of God in our lives. Amen. So with that, let me invite all of us to stand as I invite Raymond and the team to come and lead us once again in that song called The Goodness of Our God. And as we sing, may you sing it to the Lord, and may we make commitments to the Lord for this week.